Hi there from Nick.
I'm Kai from Martin.
And today we are going to assess a property in Leeds. Quite an interesting property in some ways. It's 26 Congress Street in Leeds. So let's get into it. And I'm going to share my screen. And here we go. So the property has a very unusual feature, which I'm going to show you shortly. But we'll start with the pictures, and the estate agency stuff, we'll go from there. And it's in reasonable condition. It's been heavily renovated in the 60s, I would say, just based on plug positioning and coving and all of that, all of those kind of correlating features. And we can see here we've got a reasonably modern kitchen, very economy flooring. So this would be like the cheapest laminate flooring. It's quite a narrow house and we don't have a floor plan. Martin, are you able to dig out a floor plan for another property on the road, just so we can have a look at how this thing is laid out? The chimney's been removed and we've got a little plug there, so we can see that the property was rewired in the 60s, which is helpful. So there we go. It is what it is. It's a house and it's got this loft area. So this is a proper bedroom and it's got the building reg. So you can see the way this house works is that it's quite tall, obviously. So you've got the ground floor, kitchen, etc., and living room, upstairs bedroom, and then loft bedroom. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is the video, and I'll play that. Start at the start. In fact, I'll go to the first one first, and we'll go from there. All right, this is it's in reasonably good order in respect to overall condition, although some of this looks like it's old original plasterwork lurking underneath wall chipboard paper. So it's the less pleasant paper, as it were. And here's the upstairs bedroom. It all looks reasonably decorated, reasonably nice. And there we are. We're going to sweep along. That's a 70s door if I ever saw one. It's like that wood paneled, late 70s, early 80s, I would say. Then we've got this redundant space. And then we're back down that staircase, through the door and into a hallway. There's that bathroom. Mechanical air extraction, which is a good thing. Don't see that often, or don't see it enough. Power shower. So this was probably done in the 90s. I would have thought that's a very 90s look. Cheap non-mixer taps and so on. So then we have the basin, etc. So it's an economy bathroom, and that ceiling looks like it's been ripped out and put back in again as plasterboard, so that's good. It's just a reasonable property so far, but there are a few real problems which we're going to get into shortly.
Basically, this property is like a 3 floors. The ground floor is a kitchen and living room.
Kitchen, living room, isn't it? Yeah.
But a small kitchen and a living room. And upstairs on the first floor, you have a bedroom and bathroom.
A little bit of a leak on that ceiling, and also that chipboard wallpaper is coming out a little bit. I think the ceilings have been replaced in the life of the property, which is good, because if they hadn't, it would be a problem.
The wire looks good.
Yeah, wiring looks like it's probably okay. Somewhat questionable wall texture surfacing on that corner, but anyway. And there we have an economy kitchen.
Yeah, this property is more as a flat than a property.
Yeah. And He's just having a little sweep. So there it is. Very nice.
Small, but still usable
Yeah.
space.
These properties are quite commonplace in Leeds. It has a few unusual features, which I'm going to show you in a minute, which you don't see in Manchester or anywhere else. Like I've never seen this layout in any other house apart from Leeds. Right, there's our problem, by the way. Don't know if you can see it. That's a nice little puddle of water. Now the question is, how is that water getting in? By the way, that's a new floor. That's interesting. Quite a lot of money has been spent on this house in its life, which is interesting. Now, here's another thing of interest to me. Oops. It's quite a high up property, and down there is a basement, obviously. But if you look at the walls, you've got two sets of damp proofing going on here. So there must be a real, like, there must be a serious damp issue here. Obviously there's water in the basement, but what I've never actually seen double damp proofing on a wall like this.
Me too.
Very odd. And this property is probably around 1900, by the way. You could tell because at that time they used these stone lintels, which are very commonplace back then.
Yeah, between 90s and 1930s. But it's small.
Yeah. How many square feet, do you know, or meters?
Around 50.
Wow. Okay. But you might be saying, well, it's a reasonably big house. Why is it so small? Well, here's the thing that makes this house very unusual. If my Google is working, I'm having issues with maps and things at the moment. Okay, here's the problem. These houses are actually split in half. So the spine of the house is one side. So when you look at a house, if you can see by mouse, here's a house and here's a house. So actually this block here is two houses, but they're kind of bumped up against each other. And the reason the property is so tall and not deep and why you don't have any back windows is for this reason, which is something I've not seen in any real estate in Manchester ever. So it's maybe just a weird thing related to Leeds. I don't know, but it's most unusual. And I think this is fairly commonplace around here, where you have these very deep houses, but they're actually relatively small. And also, one thing that's interesting is that, just a little bit of a history thing, these are what I would call survivor houses. So they're relatively low quality properties. And this area here was, well, actually, there was a mansion here once. That thing was probably a mansion, and then these were the gardens. So that's different. But a lot of areas were just knocked down. So I expect this area was originally built on with terraced houses. In the 60s, they were just demolished because they weren't viable to renovate and upgrade, and therefore they went. So it's just an odd little feature of areas in Manchester, Leeds, and other places. Okay, let's have a look at the demographics. The thing, by the way, finally on this property stuff is that with these property types, if they were uncommon, if this was the only house of its kind in the whole area, then I'd be like, this is no. But there are quite a lot of them around, and therefore it's just a type of property that people live in, and it's fine. It is what it is. It's economy housing that survived, and it's still economy today, and it'll rent to people who are desperate to live somewhere. Demographics are reasonably okay. And as I say, it's not that unusual for this area, obviously, so that's okay. Anyway, going back to the mainline story here. So quite a lot of good, basically very Englishy. a lot of private rented. So this is quite a high proportion private rented, probably a little too high for my comfort, 30%. And what that means is that there will be some risk with mortgage lending, I suspect, because mortgage providers get very nervous about areas that are too dominated by private rented. And 30% is extremely high, I would say. Also, it's a very C1 area, and you get this with areas dominated by renters. So that's okay. But you know, one has to be aware that this kind of place won't see a huge capital growth, and actually half the game in property, well, nearly all the game, actually 2/3 the game is capital gain. Finding areas that prices get pushed up with, and it's not going to be in places like this where people who've no money end up living. You get your gain from owning houses that people compete for, who have more money than the previous people, as it were, and they're willing to push the price up to own it, and that equals capital appreciation. Anyway, let's have a look at the capital growth numbers. I may be totally wrong. I haven't looked at the numbers, so let's just see what the numbers will say. And overall, for this catchment, they're okay. It's not huge growth. It's okay. It's gone up a little in a year, and it's kind of creeping up steadily. It was in line with inflation, I would say. It's slightly below high point of 2007. It's okay. Crashed not too heavily. It was okay. This area here, which is dominated by local authority housing, crashed heavily, but this isn't so much. So it gets a free pass, as it were. I would say it's reasonable capital growth gain in. It's okay. It's just a cheap house, but it does have a critical issue, which is the flooding in the basement, which is just irritating, honestly. And other than that, it would possibly shape up fairly well. All right, if we zoom out a little bit, I just want to see what the growth is recently. And yeah, it's not really holding up with inflation. Huge rent demand around here. Reasonable sales demand. Huge rent demand. Goodness me. All right, well, you know you'll rent it out, but it's, yeah, okay. So this changes things a little bit for me. Some places don't have huge rent demand, like this one here, less rent demand, but it's very hot around here on rent. I just want to zoom in quickly again for demographics. I just want to see what's going on overall. Crime, by the way, it's average. It's not particularly high. It's a bit crimey. It's a bit like a poorer area with a reasonable amount of crime. That's how I describe it. And overall, demographically, yeah, it's okay. It's just a lower middle class renters area. It's at least it's on the border, and it's on the right side of the fence when it comes to the demographics. So the demographics are a bit better on this side, but it's okay. I wouldn't be over enthusiastic with it. And that's that. So over to you, Martin.
I will share my screen now, and I'm going to speak about the location. Can you see?
Yeah, can I just say with the basement, by the way, if this property was in an area where we had really good renovators and so on, then I'd be less afraid of it. But if, for the sake of discussion, we got in the fray, you were offered the property, etc., what I'm nervous about is not finding a decent builder to sort this problem out.
Yeah. When I sent this deal, I didn't know that it have basement because it doesn't have any photos from it and didn't put them anywhere. And also other properties around don't have included the basement in the floor plan. So I was surprised.
Yeah, when they're trying to hide the problem, that's why. Yeah. And by the way, I spoke to the agent earlier and I quizzed her about this. and there were no offers on the property because they said the basement was an issue. And she only told me that, by the way, because I probed her. I pressed her quite hard on this question, like, why no offers? What happened? What was the feedback? It's the basement. People are afraid of the basement. This property has obviously got a serious damp issue, hence the double-lined waterproofing thing. But in any event, we don't have good renovators in Leeds. So Leeds can work for us, for you, if you have a good renovator, a good contractor, but we don't have one for Leeds. And as another thing, it's unless you've really qualified a renovator, then like we have, then good luck to you. You're on your own. But so we only like areas where we can follow through with renovations.
Yeah, and also I want to add for the location. It's like very close to school, but it's not in front of school, far away from school.
Yeah.
No? And also it's very close to water school and also the supermarket. That's why also this property is like a high rental market.
It's a great renting area, yeah.
Yeah.
But can I just go back in case, just to point out about the renovation thing? The way it works is that if we like an area, like Crewe or Doncaster, whatever, and we don't have people in it to do renovations, then I go and find them because I've been in the game a long time. I know about renovating because I've done a lot of it. And then we put the renovators through basically a series of tests to see if they stack up. If so, great. If not, we find another one. We don't test on live projects, by the way. You know, I ask all the questions, I do my due diligence, but that's how it works. So I'm not particularly in love with Leeds. I don't particularly like it as a buying destination, and I haven't made a great deal of effort to find renovators there yet. But you know, if Leeds works, then we'll do more. You know, we'll build the infrastructure for Leeds.
Some property in this location in Leeds works, so I think maybe we should try to increase. So for the finding a renovator. Basically, yes, as I said, also close to Shell, also really close to this pound where you can walk or so on, run. So basically, it's close to train or railway, but enough far away to not have noise. So as we said, there is like a weird shape of properties in Leeds, but this is not common just here. All this part of Leeds all these properties are this way, like without garden, basically like a flat.
Yeah, it's common. So it's so that's why it's acceptable. If there was, if we found a property like that in some terraced area in Manchester and there was only 3 houses like it would be an absolute no. But there is people are used to them, so it's fine.
Yeah, this array is so much similar properties because it's not the best property, but still good. And a lot of transaction around. So if there wasn't transaction for this kind of property, that means they're not good. Now I find a floor plan. Some properties are like this. Some properties they split the kitchen and the lunch as our property, and basement is for down under the staircase. And you have like a bedroom 1, you have bedroom 2 on the floor on the loft. So basically, but no one didn't show the basement, so that's why I was surprised. Like when I see that there is a basement and plus flooded, so it's interesting. And I see that there is a lot of parking lot spaces on the street.
Can I just add to this flooding thing, by the way? If it was right, it's June, late June, mid-June now, and it's been dry for some months, and there's a flood in the basement. Imagine what it's like in February at the end of winter when the water table is up and everything is just sodden. That place is just no.
But very low. Also, I'm surprised. Very low risk.
So, yeah, but it's not the surface water risk. It's the water table.
Yeah,
i.e., you know, it's obviously very high around there.
Yeah, so that's why I'm surprised. Also, that it have basement. I guess it has basement just because the properties are so tiny and they have the basement just to hold the property all. Because.
And by the way, if you wonder why there are gaps between the properties, can you guess why? Martin, can you guess why there are gaps?
I guess this they use as a storage for the beans. I don't know for
no bombs. World
really?
War II. Yeah, they're bomb sites for sure.
Maybe
bombs dropped there. There's no other reason why you'd have a random gap like that other than there was a bomb that blasted into it. Because if you look at the other ones,
yeah, but you can see.
I say that actually you're right. Okay. No, that is strange, isn't it? Okay, you're right. Sorry, I was wrong.
Maybe there was bomb somewhere and they didn't, but they used it as a storage.
No, the fact that it's so regular.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I think, but maybe it's also bombs.
I doubt.
Because you can see here it has 3, here it has 3, here is 2, but maybe they have like a rules like how many, but why they don't have here, for example, this one.
So a lot of areas just got absolutely bombed to pieces, and
you can see here well they have.
Yeah, so, no, I think you're right. I think it's designed. It's probably designed in.
I think they use it as a storage. And you can see that people putting the clouds outside for frying. So this means, yeah, not the.
I just to me that's 100. And sorry to be so bleak about it, but you know the flooding is the no-go for this. But what the hell, you know, washing on the street, for goodness sake. It's like this isn't a Brazilian slum.
I can say this is like Western Europeans doing that.
It's just really bad.
Yeah.
Also, it's interesting how many cars you have, or how many houses and how few cars as well.
Yeah, there is not a lot of this.
It's not good.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's a working day. Just I want to back in time, just to see like if different time maybe have more cars. No, because I think they don't need cars because they're so central.
Yeah.
As you can see, 2008 it have the most car compared to now. But you're so central, so I think people don't even need car because they have so much close Aldi. So why they will need
yeah. So it's walking everywhere, which is fine. But
yeah,
it just
still fine. Yeah, it's not the best, but maybe
the thing I've learned over time though is like there's what we think, but there's what you think, as in the buyer, and your opinion. It may be very different to ours. All we can do is just remain as objective as we can. I personally don't like this house, but it doesn't mean it's a bad house. But the flooding in the basement does mean it's a bad house, and that's an objective opinion. I suppose these properties will work well. They'll yield very well, and they're okay. It's just not to my taste.
Yeah, I think the same. So yeah, that's it. The rent will be 675, maybe one more. I know it's surprisingly high, but that's the rent.
It's the location, as you say.
Yeah, and selling. I think give me a choose terrace house.
You know, with the basement, the answer is to have a dehumidifier down there with a pump. So you buy a pump, you buy this thing, and it just whirs away, and it sucks up the water. And there's ways of doing it. It's a bit of work. Like I would consider finding a renovator in this area to do this, because it's not a difficult job, but if you don't sort the damp out, it's catastrophic in my opinion, because you get toxic mold, you get horrible smells. It just really brings the property right down.
Yep. The properties, as we can see, they're selling from 100. I mean, the asking price from 100 to up to 130. And this one 7K, so it's okay because of the condition. And sorting out the basement, I don't think it's quite expensive to last.
Yeah, it's not a huge. It's not a huge issue. It's just
and the work.
But people are afraid of it because if they weren't, they would have offered by now.
Yeah, especially locals. So and they know the market. So I want. Honestly, I didn't know for the basement. I didn't even know that the properties around have basement because no one didn't include in the floor plan. So basically, it's
well, it makes sense because they're hiding. That's what the estate agents often do. They can't lie, but what they can do is just not tell the whole truth, and then it's up to people like us to do the investigation, see what we can find, and then we go from there. All right, should we do the numbers on the properties, the yield and the scores? So no flood risk, presumably.
No.
You've done all that, haven't you? No mining risk to speak of. All right, so it's 117. I think you could offer 100.
115.
I would go lower than that. I think you could probably offer 113. You might get it. Now, renovation, I would say £4,000 if you just want to sort out the basement, maybe 5. I would be conservative and say £5,000. What's the rent on it?
Let's go with the minimal 650. Like this is the minimal what you can have. But you will have 675, but it's okay, 650.
Yeah, and
it's more about yield. It's small property, 60 meters. It's 60 meters square. Yeah, it will run.
It's a high yielder all day long. It's just, objectively, it's a high yielder. It's fairly low risk because it's such a good location. It's just got condition risk. The other thing we don't really know is what the roof is like and all that. Actually, let's just check that.
And can I share my screen about the properties around?
Yeah, you do yours.
Property data.
Go on.
I'll share my screen because I forget to do this. I'll share my screen. Here is the property data. This is the property. You can see it's really tiny. And what they say the estimate value, but it's not correct. So you can see that behind is 120 and this is 70. So I don't see why.
And this is leasehold, isn't it? Long leasehold, I assume.
Freehold. Absolutely.
Freehold.
Owner.
I suppose it is. It's just freeholders in its own little bit of land. Is this a tenanted property?
Wait, just
it's tenanted, isn't it? This one?
Wait. No, it's not tenanted.
So it's owned by a limited company.
Probably a tenant, and we will wait for tenancy. Okay, they don't. Yes, it's tenanted. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, and the property data. So basically, it's freehold. It's a good one. I mean, not the best, but still good. The location is really nice, and I think this property will always rent, even if it's small. But a lot of people who doesn't have enough money want to live central. They will like to live in this kind of houses because it's common, as you can see.
Yeah.
So without garden, without anything.
Yeah, it's just where young people rent because it's central and it's okay.
Yeah, it's not expensive. 675 or 650, 2 persons split the bill, so it's 325. So it's for them it's affordable. Yeah, for them it's affordable, and they will share the living room, but they will have different bedrooms. So yeah.
Okay, then should we score, and then that'll be that. So I'll share my screen, and all right, here we go. Here's the deal scores, and we've done a lot of these. We've done probably, and I reckon we've done probably over I would say somewhere in the region of like 250 formal assessments, I would say. And we started doing a scoring system a while ago, and here we are. All right. Condition. Well, not good because of the basement.
Yeah, I wanted to set 3.
Location?
4.5. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's very central and very rentable. You might, at this price point, by the way, it's going to have to be a cash purchase, typically, unless you can get a smaller mortgage than usual. Most foreign nationals are restricted to mortgages over £100,000. So if you're looking for a property like this, unless you've got another mortgage provider that offers smaller mortgages, then it has to be a cash purchase, by the way. Okay, the area?
Area, not the best. 3.8.
Prime?
It's okay.
Great, not bad. Demographic? It's kind of like, it's not great.
Yeah.
Capital growth?
That's still okay.
It's okay.
Not bad, yes.
Yield? Exceptionally good. What's the yield?
4.3, 4.5, because it can be up to 7.
Yeah, so it has a lot of sins, but the capital gain, sorry, it has a lot of sins, like condition is terrible and, you know, got the basement or whatever, but the location and the yield bring it all up. It's one, as an aside, I like this algorithm this thing that I built, because it really does work. And on balance, it's a good property. I don't like it, but on balance and objectively speaking, it's good. It's a good deal.
Yeah, I can say the same, that not the best deal, but...
Well, best for somebody who wants high yield.
Yeah.
Solid high yield, it works.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if you like high yield or so, this is a good property.
Okay, so let's just finish up and summarize. All right, so that was kind of the summary. If you like high yield and you're okay with socio-capital gain and you're okay with lower end demographics and a reasonably high churn of tenants, because it'll be young people just kind of passing through with these kind of properties, great, it works.
Yeah, I agree. But if you find long-term tenancy, like 2-3 years, it will be great.
Yeah.
It will have voids period, this property, but still good yield. If you're searching more about yield, but the capital growth is not huge, and it will never be huge just because of the shape of the property.
Yeah.
But it's still good because this part is central, and the prices will increase with inflation. I don't think it will go negative. So yeah, I think
it's not overbought by any means. It's like sensibly priced. And I think the long-term demographic is okay around here.
I agree.
So there it is. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And let us know if you want to send offer or not.
Thanks.